Hello, welcome to the lunch series. I'm going to start with the IEB Land Acknowledgement Statement. The Carl R. Lewis Institute for Genomic Biology at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign recognizes and acknowledges that we are on the land of the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Pialpeshore, Huella, Miami, Mascoutin, Odawa, Sauk, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Kikasho nations. These lands were the traditional territory of these native nations prior to their forced removal. These lands continue to carry the stories of these nations and their struggle for survival and identity. As a land-grant institution, the University of Illinois has particular responsibility to acknowledge the peoples of these lands, as well as the histories of these possessions that have allowed for the growth of this institution for the past 150 years. We are also obligated to reflect on and actively address these histories and the role of the university has played in shaping them. This acknowledgement and the centering of Native peoples is a start as we move forward for the next 150 years. So we welcome today our speaker, Dr. Teran. She is the Associate Dean of Integrated Health Disparities Program. Dr. Teran conducts transdisciplinary research on obesity and other nutrition-related diseases, such as diabetes and hypertension, among low-income populations. She works on promoting health and wellness among families of Hispanic heritage and translates evidence-based science to community-based programs that serve children and families in need. Her aim is to better understand the biological and psychological dimensions that could be modified in individuals and families to tailor more efficient and practical interventions to prevent obesity and chronic diseases. Welcome, Dr. Teran.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to have this live, because I didn't realize last time the president was doing COVID by Zoom. So it is a good opportunity to talk about this area of, being integrative and about health is not something that is that new. The concept of health and how to integrate health is something that has been for many years ago with the father of medicine, as we consider Hippocrates. And talking about food, talking about how we process food, how do we eat, that is eating alone is not the only thing that is good for health, but we have to do exercise, and the combination of nutrition, the biology of the individual, everything is mixed what they call a regimen, but in reality it's talking about integration, right? And that makes us a whole, because the situation of the weather, and we know that changes in weather, the age of the individual and the situation of his home will affect and if he gets sick or if he's healthy. Think about these words of wisdom were written 500 years before BC. So sometimes the old is new, and we just need to think about how we analyze that. Because if we think about other elements in the biology, in the social elements, in the technology, and something is disrupted in how we affect the individual in their health, nowadays we have more tools to improve the personalization, to have precision in the pathways, to be more predictive in how things can affect the outcomes of health and individual. But still, we cannot prevent everybody to fall sick. We don't have enough investment in the prevention of disease, and not everybody has the same abilities or opportunities to have the performance of their body or their communities or their areas to the 100%. There have been many changes in different countries in Latin America about the nutrition intake, and you can see here that slowly, and this is a little bit old slide, but you can see that people are getting higher consumption of sugar, they have high consumption of carbohydrates. the animal fat and the vegetable fats are increasing, that red arrow over there, and the amount of vegetable, of protein, that is something that is a big problem in general in other countries, is that we consume more protein than we need. And a lot of that, the source of that protein is animal protein. And a lot of times the food that we eat is highly processed. So, today we're going to talk about what are the myths and the realities of the Mexican food and how people are considered if it was healthy or not. And many of the misconceptions that exist is that the Mexican food is always unhealthy, it's always spicy, it's always about the tortillas, and it's always has to have meat. And you know that, and you have seen that, probably. But in reality, and now with understanding better the elements of sustainability, of collaborations, we can see that this is a new plate, Mexican plate, that has been developed in collaboration with several organizations in Mexico, that they have what is called the cornfield diet, or like the Victorian garden field diet, whatever you can grow in your backyard. That was very popular during COVID. You can eat what you produce in the areas that are close to you, right? So you see half of the plate is like my plate guidelines, that you have full of fruits and veggies, and look at the amount of protein of animal origin. Very sweet. Look about the healthy oils, and look about the type of seeds that gives you omega-3, fiber, and other things that are good for your health. So every region now is adapting, and this is how in Mexico there are more than 60 native languages, and every region speaks a different native language. As Dr. Sarah was mentioning today, the native and indigenous, they speak their own languages, and sometimes that culture was lost. Nowadays, this is done in the area of Veracruz, where they have Otomi language. They have done it in Yucatan, with some of the Mayan language. They have done it also with Nahuatl, 60 indigenous languages. And rescuing that is very important because every region has local production, seasonal production, and you want to avoid things that are, in Mexico we use the black seals, that you might have seen it in the front label, to say that it's like excess of sugar, excess of salt, and different kind of extra processed foods. So whenever you see a black seal in all those kind of things, tells that according to the regulations, you are consuming extra amount of sugar and salt and processed food. So just look into that idea. And those elements that I have in this diet, and this is in English, so you can see a little bit better and understand what is in this diet of this dietary pattern. Just think about that in the past, you have the 3 sisters or the 4 sisters, corn grows very close with pumpkins, beans get around that, chili peppers are also there. It's part of the natural growth of corn. So whatever is you're producing in that cornfield is a sustainable food, and they kind of feed each other. The beans give the nitrogen to the corn, and the corn keeps growing. It's a very ecological, reliable system contained in that area. Sometimes we don't take advantage of recognizing the value of this. This diet has also food that has natural sweeteners, that has products from the original bees, from the plants that they produce natural sugar, like agave, honey, things like that. A lot of fruits that they have they're rich in beta-carotenoids, in vitamin C, in minerals. A lot of pumpkin, cactus that are very rich in fiber, and it's very good for your gut microbiome. And of course, the healthy fats like the avocado. So you think about it, and this is in Spanish, just for those of you who might be interested to have a bilingual interface. Vitamins A, D, A, and K, liposoluble vitamins. There are these kind of products that they're easy to have in the Mexican diet, like turkey, broccoli, some of the squash, that they are rich in this area. Vitamin B and C, very high in chili peppers. And minerals, like in the radish, in the cauliflower, things like that. Iron, very rich in some of the animal products that are there. And calcium, as you have also in some of the plants that wonderful selection we have in this buffet. It's not always spicy. Mexican food is not always spicy. Unless any of you, are you getting extra spice in your food today? No, right? You don't need to have chili peppers to have a Mexican food. The Mexican food is as varied as the regions in the country. And you see here there are approximately 40 to 45 regions that they have specific dietary patterns according to what is locally produced. So it is interesting that this ethnological and archaeological work has been happening to rescue the value, the nutritional value of these foods. As we are doing right now, when we're consuming local farms, local foods, it is important to think about that this is something that will happen. But every region also has their own chili peppers. So there are many good chili peppers, and I can, if you have, I'm gonna give you some of the QR codes over there. They have the names of these chili peppers in all the languages that are used in Mexico over here. And you can see also the, learn a little bit more about the regional language that are happening in Mexico. But it's very interesting to see we have all colors, flavors, levels of spiciness, and some peppers are, bringing from other places, and they become even more spices, like, scorpion peppers and other ones are a mix and match of Asian peppers and Mexican peppers, and a good combination that is happening. So, salsa is really a nutrition in a bowl. Why? Depending on how we cook different types of salsas, we release different types of nutrients. If we cook more the green tomatillos, they can have different antioxidants and different substances that they release when they are cooked. When we combine and we cook tomatoes, what do they have? We will have any nutritional students here, they know about lycopene and vitamin A. And if we combine with onions, who has an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant properties, we really have a good, powerful mix of flavors there that has great properties to combine and add on to any food. So that's what's happening, and sometimes, it's only the tortillas. Well, believe it or not, Mexico doesn't produce enough corn to feed their people. That is the sad part. All these combinations of different types of corns, the blue corn, the yellow corn, the purple corn, is just getting, more localized. There are many changes happening in this part of the area. And it has been known that there are more than 600 varieties of corn. But thanks to things like Morocross, somebody has seen the Morocross here? Morocross? The combination of having that engineering for having 6 ear corns in one plant to 25 is a big deal. You can feed more people with one plant, right? At the same time, the type of corns that you can get it, and this is more of 10,000 years of evolution from this original corn. That was the original corn, with only 10 or 20 kernels per 1 ear, to have 2,500 or 3,000 kernels in 1 ear corn is amazing. Due to the combination of people were picking up what corns were better in what region. But people who studies the genetics and the properties of these corns, they also start to realize that they have antioxidants, fibers, vitamins, and say which is the best corn to put in a plot. Well, one of the again, it's important to have the combination between the scientific level and the qualitative analysis. If you ask a person in the farm, he will tell you why you don't put only put this type of corn or this type of corn in your plot. And I say, well, you only set up one type of corn, and you don't know what is going to be the pattern of the wear pattern and how much water you will get. You might lose the whole field, because when you cannot predict accurately the wear, and you don't depend, as we depend in the United States, of artificial irrigation and water, you are at the mercy of the environment. So many of the original farmers, they plant 2 or 3 types of corn because they cannot predict the wear pattern, and they rather have at least a little bit of a reliable crop and harvest than having nothing. So this is important to think about why when we talk about sustainable food is something that we do. Since many, many years ago, and I'm going to check my time, people really know about portion control. Do you know about portion control? How much you should be eating of every food? Well, this is the Codex of Mendoza when the Spaniards arrived to Mexico. And they start to register how people were fed, what their customs, what were their ideas. And they noticed that they have already patterns to say, if it's a girl that stays at home and is below the age of 6, they only want to eat half of the tortilla. If it is a boy that is doing this type of activities, can get 1 tortilla. If it is a warrior that is working in the garden, doing a lot of work, can have 2 tortillas, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. So they would have an idea how much of the tortillas they will make for them, depending on the age, the activity, and the way that they were using it. Are we doing that today? So I kind of think about that this type of, all this new, but today we don't have portion control. I eat as many tacos as I want to, right? And we don't realize the value of thinking that if we have the amount of food that we eat for the activity that we realize, we will have less problems of chronic diseases. And nowadays, people are not making the corn tortillas of getting the corn and making the corns and the process of nixtamalization of making those corns. This is a very integrated process that you can make the masa, sometimes you do tortillas, sometimes you make tostadas. Whatever you do, it's a long process. So you're not doing it by hand. Now you go to the store and get everything, right? So it's important to think about it. Mexico is not only about the tacos that you have, and last time when I presented this, we were talking about pork tacos that are very common in Mexico. But these are all the types of tacos that you can have in Mexico, and every region can have, as I was telling you, a different type of taco that could be with grasshoppers, with potatoes, with beans, with cactus, depending on what is grown in the region. And everything that we do, and the different type of nutrients that they are in the food that we combine in a taco. It's not only the salsa that I was telling to you before, but you have pineapple, you have some chemical nutraceuticals that we call that they have ability to really have anti-inflammatory properties. Or you have minerals, you have vitamins that are combined together, making a very good advantage for your nutrition and your health. So this is, as I will insist, Mexican food didn't always have meat. The amount of meat is very small, as I was showing to you. It's when you have the chance to get that animal product and harvest and get that meat. Not always have chickens. You didn't have beef because beef was something that the Spaniards brought to America. So if we were doing a salpicon, it would be done with venison, not with beef. So that's a traditional part of doing this type of recipes. We'll be having a different type of work. If we have radishes, we also have additional benefits in magnesium, calcium, iron, potassium. All those kind of things are combinations that we are, as I was telling you, we have adaptations that are, these are local seasoning and local production. There are many types of beans in Mexico. And this is something that you always, people say, oh, the pinto beans, the black beans, whatever it is. There are some faculties here in this Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition that have done a great research to talk about the anti-hypertensive properties of black beans. And also regulation of blood glucose. They affect the same enzymes that they modulate blood glucose. So when Mexicans eat in every meal a little bit of beans, there are traditional Mexican cuisine. We're eating a little bit of beans in every meal. And they keep the traditional patterns. They were helping to modulate and preventing chronic diseases. When we have the nutrition transition, then the things are getting not in the right way. So think about all these type of beans. Think about these pumpkins. These are the traditional pumpkins in Mexico that are probably very different of what you can see normally in the stores. And nowadays that there are more exposure to commerce and international commerce, you can see them. But we eat the flowers, and they are rich in fiber, in vitamin A, and they have a lot of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. So it's thinking about how we enrich ourselves in this type of diets. And this is another example of what they call in Mexico gelites. I don't know if anybody has heard that word, but if I say gelites and I talk with somebody from Africa, from Asia, there are many herbs, many plants that they are spread around the field, foraging food, that they are traditionally incorporated because it's the local produce that there are in those areas, that they have amaranth seeds, verdolaga, purcella, many of these plants that they have local seeds that you can eat, and they are part of your salads. As somebody has tried dandelion salad with the dandelion leaves, it's something that was used many, many years ago, before dandelion was treated with pesticides, right? So there are things that I'm going to the opposite way. So we have to think about that we have more grains, tubers, vegetables, and the amount of meats, very sparse, very little in what is in the diet. So why we consider that the culture could be a key to our health? If we go back to our roots, how we can make that part of our healthy dietary patterns. If we have activity and we move on, we drink water, we eat more fruits and veggies, we measure what we eat, we are activities of being able to have that ability to do that, and sharing with families and have a good humor. This is part of what they're doing in the public health sector in Mexico. So we have done interventions in my programs to think about that. What is considered in the area of prevention, we want to eat at least 5 fruits of veggies, reduce the hours of TV that we watch, play for kids at least 1 hour outside, and limit the amount of sugar-sweet beverages. But guess what? Also, the people really drink a lot of sugar-sweet beverages. They watch more than 5 or 6 hours of screen time. Most of the kids don't play even after physical activity because they're in front of the screen time. And the amount of fruits and veggies that are naturally with that process is very, very little. So we have to find strategies to do that. We have done some projects, like this is the one that I have been doing as an outreach program to decrease childhood obesity. It's called Abriendo Caminos, Clearing the Path to Hispanic Health. And it has more of the good things, less of the bad things. And I am working in my next phase of this project to make it as part of what we will consider the next path of what we can do more promotion and advocacy for transformation of the health recognizing that every culture, and I'm working with the Illinois College of Medicine, of transforming African American cultures, Chinese culture, every culture, and I'd love to have students who help me to do that, because every culture has the value that they bring to the table, and we can really adapt to be better in how we transform our own path to be healthier. So with that, we did the Mexi-Medi intervention, because we know that we needed to combine, and everybody has heard about the Mediterranean diet to be very, very important for, and with a lot of evidence of impact, and because we know that chronic diseases in America are really affecting everybody. We spend $2,000 to $3,000 a month in adults treating those chronic diseases. We have many, many years of disability loss because of that. We have, the causes of death are related. That's why we have early detection of cancers, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, all these problems. And minorities are really affected disproportionately with some of these diseases. So American Indian, Hispanics, African Americans are really, and Asian non-Hispanics are disproportionately affected by these chronic diseases. The nutrition transitions, the environment, the lack of access, the social determinants of health are affecting this part. And the good things of the Mediterranean diet, that is well known again, because it has vegetable proteins, that has mineral, carbohydrate, the phytosterols I was telling you, help to modulate the metabolic processes that are important in the chronic diseases. But we didn't know if we make a Mediterranean-like pattern with a Mexican diet will be better. So along with the support of the Personalized Nutrition Initiative, with the extension programs, and my student who just got her PhD and her registered dietitian, we came out with the Mexi-Medi diet. And it took for her a very, very long time working together with the community to have a diet that was in the same nutritional value as the Mediterranean diet and the Mexican diet, and try 5 weeks of this intervention and to see the outcomes of this diet. Two things that were very difficult for her. The traditional Mexican diet has higher amount of vitamin C and vitamin A more than the Mediterranean diet. So she needed to adjust that to have a parallel comparison. I'm not going to tell you too much on this one, but we have a meal plan development. We have focus groups that guide us to change the diet. We make an updates on this according to the feedback from the community, and we did 5 weeks of the intervention, and then we have a post evaluation of that program. So with that type of intervention, first we wanted to say, okay, what are the things that we're going to be changing or modifying that they are traditional in the Mediterranean diet versus the Mexican diet, and how we're going to change that they have the same distribution as the Mediterranean diet in protein, in fat, the healthy diets, and how we're going to make that for 35 days and be sure that the people adhere to that diet and evaluate what is the impact. So this is one of the examples, right? Mediterranean diet, pita. Mexican diet, corn tortillas, right? Feta cheese, but panela cheese is traditional in Mexico. Things like that, we have to figure out how to make those balanced and equivalent on the diet, on this dietary proportion, and adjust for each one of the individuals that participate to follow up what they did. So we did that, we did the focus groups, we asked them what they liked, if they like the spiciness, they like the flavor, and how we can make those updates in the plan. With that part, and again, that's my student, my group, and always it's wonderful to have the support of wonderful undergraduate students. We contact several people. Not everybody was filling out the criteria of inclusion to be, healthier, being able to participate, etc. And we have 21 in the group that received the Mediterranean diet and 21 that received the Mexi-Medi. to facilitate the plan, we make a new version, right? And we improve that, and we offer incentives for them to participate, and we offer them to give them olive oil, salmon, walnuts, whatever was necessary to facilitate that they were adhering to the diet. We are still analyzing a lot of this data, but I just want to show you what two things that here is that after being baseline 3 weeks, 5 weeks, we can see that they were shifting to, from the baseline to be kind of similar to this also similar level at 5 weeks. And it was very interesting to know that some of the metabolites that were driving the separation in those ones, and again, I will explain to you later on with the big paper, etc., is that similar metabolites that were changing with the Mediterranean diet were changing with the Mexican diet. So what it means is that the same antioxidants, the same values that we change with the Mediterranean, it just has a different food, but it's appropriate for that culture, and we are changing the same things that your body does with it. Because at the very end is what you do it. You want to have the metabolic, the chemical outcome that makes benefit to your health. So from those participants, they were very similar in the two diets. The ones who finished the 5 weeks. They have similar levels of education, of income, and diversity. We are individuals who were from Mexican origin that have information on that. And we find out that, they were motivated to be adherers to that. We find that the people in the Mexican diet, they really enjoyed more the food, and they were willing to continue with that diet. They also, we realized that, the changes on people who were adhering to the diet, they start to have a little bit, losing later on in their weight. But what's really amazing for us to see, I'm gonna move this one, is that the blood pressure in those that adhere to the diet decreased significantly more than the ones that they didn't adhere to the diet. Very similar numbers, and it's very small, it's a pilot study, but this is what we need to do to go to bigger interventions to the similar levels that it will decrease when you are doing the Mediterranean diet. And again, the important thing is to have the sustainability of something that you like to do. So what is important thing about after we did the program is you really like to do it? What is going to help you to continue this type of diet? What it motivates to you to have a healthy path? And what are the barriers of doing these ones, right? It's important to know what does it take somebody to follow a healthy dietary pattern. And we know that this is important that, if your family supports you, your environment, your local groups support you, is very, very important. Some of these recipes are family friendly, and there were people who were able to share with their families. And we know that after looking with them, is that they make those recipes as favorites of them. So they like to continue to expand, because the kids and the husband say, or the wife of the man will say, "Oh, what are you trying? Can I try?" And then everybody was invited to the plate and tried those type of foods. This is what we try to do when we do this type of programs. If we have to prove yourself that you can do it, and they can see that there you have outcomes week after week that you do better, I think that is something that keeps you engaged in following a healthy dietary pattern. If you have different ways that are resonate with you, with your culture, with your family, with what you have been used for so many years to do, that is also locally sustainable, go for it, right? That's what we have to figure out. And of course, the barriers are the cost, because some people say, "Oh, why am I going to be doing something that this is, salmon, right?" But they maybe have alternatives to that. So we have to figure out what else we can do in that area. But this is one of we have right now in extension. We are extending this outreach. One of the favorite recipes was the cauliflower tacos. Roasted cauliflower, Mexican flavors, and with a topping of carrots and cauliflower also, and a little bit of mayonnaise, chili peppers, and lime juice, they love it. And everybody was thinking they were eating chicken. So this is kind of amazing to think about what we can do that really helps the people to embrace their culture and the gastronomy of this new type of work, and how we can make it sustainable. Because if we, again, combine the benefits, the value of this nutritional value and these benefits, it is something that helps people to be proud. First, second generation, third generation that have forgotten about the roots and the value of the roots when they're eating at the table, the work that the parents put to have that food at the table, and the benefit that they have for their health. I think this is important to reinforce that into parents, to grandmas and families. If we don't rescue those traditional dishes, if we don't rescue that culture, we are losing generations of knowledge, as I was telling you. And that's the reason I'm doing this new path, how we can do other cultures to acknowledge, to dignify their work that they have been doing for many, many years. They were healthy. We introduced a lot of things that they were not part of our food chain and our food supply, and that's making us unhealthy. So when we do that, and we recognize that the space to grow, to get better, we really can make ideas, can really have more healing in our communities. And that is part of this type of projects that we're doing. And it is for us important because this is something that we are doing with our projects, with our extension programs. The path, as I was telling you, is the promotion and advocacy for transformational health is part of the initiatives of the extension statewide initiative to do more a strategic plan. And if somebody wants here, I have some of these pamphlets. But they talk about how we do better when we work together in those parts of areas. This is something that I think we feel very proud that we can go across the state and show other communities and other cultures to become healthier. So I left on purpose some time for questions, because one of the things I just wanted to mention to you is that you see people who don't have access or inequities that they really care, is that for the Hispanic population, look at that and the variety of people who are uninsured. Look into for Asian, Alaska Native and Asian American, Pacific Islanders. Look for the African Americans. People are being affected by the type of insurance, by the type of healthcare, and if we do more investment in prevention and promotion of health, this generation and the next generation will be healthy. And with that, I think I paced myself to 40 minutes.
Thank you. Questions?
Also, if you would like, and we would very much like you to, could you use the QR code on your table to give us a review today and be entered to possibly win a delicious snack? Thank you so much for our talk today. And since we have Carter here, I was wondering if you'd like to say a little something.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. How was lunch today? Good? Excellent. I heard lots of crunchy tostadas. I was like, oh man, probably should have picked a quieter food, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. I get the joy of meeting with the speakers, and I've known Margarita for many years here, and kind of bringing a little taste of whatever their research is to life, right? So Margarita was able to share with me some of the Meximedi programming that they've done. Obviously, we can't do the portion control portion of it with a buffet style, so it's something I struggle with at home a lot. But some of the stuff that really spoke to me was this idea of cultural competency, right? I recently had a conversation with one of my students, and they looked at it as cultural humility, right? So cultural competency is thinking that you know all the answers, right? Cultural humility is realizing that you don't and trying to seek that connection and try to make those connections. I think that talking about the three sisters and the growing, like we've so disconnected from our roots and where we grow food. I think we should all dig up our grass yards and start growing gardens sharing that food. That's probably for another talk. So thank you very much for the opportunity to come and prepare the food.
Yeah, and I asked you, and you did wonderful work in having the quinoa as one. I forgot to talk about the quinoa as a replacement of a whole grain with fiber, with protein, and it's an Asian grain that some people forget about it, and it's something that this is very, very important. The tinga with the combination of onions, with the tomatoes, everything that you did is super fantastic, and I think that this is something that we need to also applaud you for the work that
Well, thank you. It was not just me, I have a whole team working on it. Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions from the audience? So Margarita, well, I start with something because my family is Latinx, as you know. But something that, for instance, I see a difference. I see many similarities. I can't eat spicy. I have at all, and I eat a lot of Mexican. But something that in Spain, for instance, is very, when you grow up, it's like there's certain foods you don't eat at night, and some foods that you eat. I don't know if that's something scientific to it. Like, for instance, still today, somebody will say, let's do a paella for dinner. And I was like, oh, paella for dinner. So, I don't know if that's also something that is like, there's some scientific proof or something that is kind of.
Well, you have heard about now that there's this, the chronobiology, right? At what time of the day you should be eating and your heavy meals to have the chance to digest it. The wisdom of the Asian individuals was you eat your heavy meal in the morning, not as heavy in the middle of the day, and the lightest meal at night, just to facilitate the burn of the calories and the digestion. And now we have a lot of people who eat at night, and they have problems of diabetes and hypertension and chronic diseases. So that is something that is part of the wisdom. Say, why would you have a heavy meal if you are not going to burn it, and you're going to eat and go to bed? The absorption of those heavy meals that have excess of protein, excess of fat, excess of calories, when you are not burning calories, you are storing them. And where do they go? First to the liver. When there is excess of fat in the liver, then it goes to spillover effect to the rest of the body. So this is how, there is that part of wisdom is there. Now we have more evidence that the chronobiology is important. The other part that we were talking about, my very first slide, is that everybody has a different biology, right? So, I don't know if it's going to help, but this one, the different biology of the individual is critical, because if you have that ability to burn and have more mitochondria, you are more efficient, you are doing exercise, all the things that you are doing, that is kind of important to think about how you do. I didn't run out, but it's okay. So it is very important, because your ability to burn and to metabolize proteins or carbs or any food is also has individual components. How many of you, when this comes out, crave carbs and sweets? I just want to have a hand, How many of you crave salty food? Right? How many don't crave anything when you're stressed out and you drink water? Very few of you push yourself toward the healthy choice. It's part of a learning behavior, and it's part of what we have growing up and how it's a drive. So the hardest thing in doing interventions is to motivate, to change our behavior, and how much is that interaction of the environment and the biology.
Thank you for the talk. Early on, you mentioned the little symbol with the black that means something like it's unhealthy, I think.
Oh, yes.
And then the U.S., as far as I know, we don't have a symbol like that. And I'm wondering if you know of other studies where they're looking at if that's effective, if it's helping people make better choices when they see that on the label.
you can do whatever you want to, you don't have education behind that, the intervention wouldn't work, right? So, but this, because there are so many years that in Latin America has been introduced this type of seals, despite the food industry being against of that, somehow it has been started to sink into the 1 generation, 2 generations, and 3 generations. So there's a second generation of individuals in Latin America that have been exposed to these black seals. So they realize that, oh, this has too much sugar and too much salt. I don't think that will happen easily in the States, but at the same time, because we have, I think one of the things I didn't mention, right now is one of 8, it's 20% of Hispanics in Illinois. At some point we want to be 25%, or like in Texas, is 40 to 50% of Hispanics in Illinois. A lot of that food is imported, and they imported with those seals. And if we have the education from grandma, from parents, and for the kids, I think we can do some changes in the behaviors. That's very important for us to be aware when do education with the communities that we serve. It has an impact. Any other questions in terms of your
Use like Julia sometimes. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you end up working in this field of nutrition?
That's a long path. I was working as a pediatrician in Mexico when I decided to, and I was already working in the National Institute of Pediatrics doing research with one of the vitamins, the biotin, which is, talks about the impact of kids with severe malnutrition. And I wanted to know more about the effect of fish oil and fatty acids in how some kids are developing either marasmus or kwashiorkor. So that's why I come to the States to do my PhD in Texas. Part of the rest is history, but then I start to understand why fish oil can be good to metabolize and handle your diet, and how the benefits of fish oil, and that is many years ago, when nobody has getting fish oil as a supplement, and understanding what is the biology of the fish oil in your diet to decrease the triglycerides and make your healthy diet better. That's why the salmon part, having more fish incorporated in your diet, I always wanted to have the opportunity to translate that. But then, as I was learning about that, I was understanding more about the biology and the genetics part. So then I went to Louisiana to do a postdoctoral work in understanding the genetic of human populations when you do interventions like exercise, and not everybody responds in the same way to exercise, not only to diet. And I end up here, coming to understand more about children and families and communities on how do we do what is called nutrigenetics, gene-environment interactions. And it has been kind of a road to understand in families. I have studies in families, in children, that there were moms that were pregnant and now kids are 10 or 11 years old. College-age students who have been doing the nutrition transition when they move to college, or families that migrate to the States and they have to adapt different type of diets. It's part of everything comes to a path to how do we do the basic science, we translate that evidence to the community, and we help others to do better in their path towards health. And my work right now as an assistant dean for integrated health disparities in extension is to bring those ideas and that education across the state to decrease that gap of health inequity in those communities.
Thank you for a very nice talk. I was wondering that how those interventions could be effectively implemented in a more longer term, because after the program, they may be switched back to the routine pretty quickly because there's different environment, different social contact, and different cultures. So I wonder that in a more longer term, how does this intervention could be effectively delivered?
This was something that we were very careful when we did these interventions. How long the minimum amount of time to see changes, and what we have not been able to do is to see how long it takes to revert back of what were the original baseline, right? We know that after 5 weeks, those people who like it, they were very happy and they have very good changes. people could adhere and incorporate the family their diet, they wanted to have more recipes. That's why now we're doing the community intervention, because some of the families, they have 3 or 4 or 5 recipes that are part of now, that they do at least once or twice a week. And that's what we care. If we change a couple of the diets, instead of going outside and having fast food, to some of these traditional diets, it's a long-time sustainability. And I have been doing these programs like Abriendo Caminos for the last 12, 13 years in this community. So I see that people who were drinking 5 or 6 sugar-sweet beverages a day, now they drink 1 a week. That is a change. Not everybody, but if we see that in 1 or 2 families, I think that my work is done.
So you said that the cauliflower tacos were like one of the most popular. I was wondering which recipe was your favorite that you teamed me up with.
That and we have a mango salsa in salmon. So we have a we have a kind of a fast food salmon, and we put a mango salsa there. But those 2 are also my favorite ones. Yeah, we also have some veggie soups that are great, and some tostadas like the ones that you were trying here. And the dessert, that part is part of the dessert. So they're very good. Any other?
No more questions. Let's thank Dr. Teran again. So it's like, you can tell in the survey, it's very short, and I'll see you next month.
Next month.
I don't remember the date that you laid, did you know? That's okay. We will be on your time.
Somebody wants any of these people to know about the extension, I have here from this handout.
Helpful if I was just wanted to auto sign up so I didn't have to find it every time. We made that possible.
I think if we did that, it would just, yeah, it would just be the same, but. Didn't remember. It's weird because we'll get, I think like it's sent to a lab or something, and I'll see literally 25 come in within 10 minutes. Like that's a lab that's just like this. Yeah. 40.
Next lesson. Oh, how are you doing?